Before I start the video, I just wanted to give a warning that there will be mentions of child sexual assault and grooming regarding the relationship between Elizabeth I and Thomas Seymour. Nothing extremely graphic or anything like that. I just wanted to say that in case that might be triggering for any of you. So remember in my last Becoming Elizabeth video when I said that the show is coming out in April? I may have lied a little bit. A few days ago, Starz announced that Becoming Elizabeth will be premiering in the summer of 2022. Well, technically I didn't lie, Romola Gowrai lied. Romola, girly, summer isn't in April, silly. No, but from what I understand, the show's premiere date has been delayed several times, so she was probably told it would be here in April, and then afterwards they just changed it again. Well, now we know what season Becoming Elizabeth will premiere in, but that is a very broad amount of time. Summer starts on June 21st and ends on September 22nd. Honestly, I feel like they just said summer because they don't even know when it's coming out. They have no fucking idea. Some people think that by summer they could mean May or early June. Outlander, one of Star's most popular series, will be premiering its 6th season on March 6th, and its season finale will air on May 8th. It could be that they're waiting for Outlander to be over so Becoming Elizabeth can take its time slot, but let's be honest, it's not coming till September 22nd. Okay, now on to this bitch. Thomas Seymour. They are pushing this character hard. Like, every official still they've give us are of Elizabeth and Thomas Seymour, besides that one group cast photo. The official synopsis for the show is Elizabeth Tudor, an orphan teenager who becomes embroiled in the political and sexual politics of the English court on her journey to secure the crown. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that, Stars? What do you mean by that? And this verified account on Twitter described the show like this. Becoming Elizabeth is a shocking, provocative tale about a girl who thinks she's ready to adult during a very dangerous time. What do you mean by that, Deanna? What do you mean by that, Deanna Burnett? Reasonably, this has had everybody concerned that they're going to romanticize the inappropriate relationship between a 14-year-old Elizabeth and a 40-year-old Thomas Seymour. If you aren't aware of the context of all this, I'm just going to fill you in real quick. After Henry VIII died and Edward VI became king, Catherine Parr, Henry's sixth wife, married Thomas Seymour, the brother of Jane Seymour, uncle of Edward VI, yeah. Elizabeth then moved into the household of Catherine and Thomas Seymour. I am going to read you the testimony about the relationship between Thomas Seymour and Elizabeth I from Kat Ashley, Elizabeth I's governess. The text I'm going to be reading it from is modernized. The original is obviously in Old English. Seymour came many mornings into Elizabeth's chamber before she was out of her bedclothes and was presentable, and sometimes before she was out of bed. He would enter her chamber, ask how she was, and strike her on the buttocks in a familiar manner. He seemed to go toward her when she was in bed, but she moved further back, as to prevent him from coming any closer. One morning, he tried to kiss her when she was still in bed in front of me, whereupon I asked him to leave, that he should be ashamed of himself. Kat tells the examiner she is not sure whether the above took place at Chelsea or Hanworth, but is sure that at Hanworth, Seymour, on 2 separate mornings, came with the Queen, Catherine Parr, to her bedchamber. I was in bed with her, and witnessed both Seymour and Catherine tickle her on these occasions. That once in the garden at Hanworth, Seymour took her gown and cut it in 100 pieces, later telling me that there was nothing she could do, as the Queen held her while he cut it. I heard from Elizabeth's gentlewoman that at Chelsea, Elizabeth heard the lock to her chamber door open, and Elizabeth, knowing Seymour would again come into her room, got out of bed and ran to her maidens' quarters and hid behind the bed curtain, while the maidens were present. Seymour came in, stayed a while in the expectation that Elizabeth would come out of hiding. I do not know how long this took place, but was told this by the gentlewoman. Later, in the gallery, I told Lord Seymour there were complaints about his behavior, and that Elizabeth's reputation was slandered to be so blamed for what he had done. Seymour swore and threatened to tell the Lord Protector that he was the one being slandered, and that he meant no harm by doing what he had done. And again, at Seymour Place, when his wife, the Queen, was present, he used to come to Lady Elizabeth's chamber in the morning in his nightgown, bare-legged and in his slippers, where he would find Elizabeth reading. Again, I later told Lord Seymour it was inappropriate for him to come bare-legged to a maiden's chamber. He got angry when I said this, but let it drop. At Hanworth, Queen Catherine told me that Lord Seymour looked in at the gallery window and saw Lady Elizabeth with her arms about a man's neck. I asked my Lady Elizabeth about this. Elizabeth insisted, all the time weeping, that this was not true, that the only man in the gallery with her was the schoolmaster, and that she could ask all her gentlewomen, who would back up the truth of her story. I believe Queen Catherine was lying and made this up as she was likely jealous of the relationship between Seymour and Elizabeth. I decided after this to be more vigilant so as to be sure as possible to get the facts straight. In addition, Kat Ashley stated her husband, Mr. Ashley, warned her to be careful in this matter, as he was of the opinion that Lady Elizabeth bore some affection for Seymour, and appeared to enjoy the dalliance, further stating to her that Elizabeth would blush when the subject of Lord Seymour came up. Thomas Seymour was executed in 1549 for treason after conspiring to marry Elizabeth and attempting to kidnap an 11-year-old Edward VI. Now that we know all of this, I think we can understand why some may be worried about this show. However, the show's creator, Anya Reese, gave this statement that I think shows that Becoming Elizabeth will not go in a romantic direction with their relationship. I never knew what went on during her brother's reign. I never knew about this relationship she had with Thomas Seymour, and there's being able to touch on relevant things now, such as consent, gender imbalance, and power imbalance in relationships. Here's one theory from a Tumblr user about how the show will go, and I think that it pretty much hits the nail on the head. Elizabeth will get a crush on Seymour. Seymour will notice and deliberately take advantage of this because ambition and danger. Elizabeth will feel uncertain but feel sure she's an adult. She can handle this. She's not a child. They won't have sex, but Seymour will get her in trouble and will cross boundaries that she doesn't want him to cross, like the groping from the Ashley testimony. But she doesn't complain. She just tries to ignore it because she loves him, and that makes it okay, doesn't it? Spoiler alert, it doesn't. The whole thing implodes, and Elizabeth realizes in hindsight just how toxic he was and that he used her. And honestly, I would be perfectly fine with that. Like, that's fine. I mean, nothing could be worse than the 1953 film Young Bess. Right?